Welcome, my beautiful people. Today, I'm going to be talking about a study and a report that was put out by Beyond Pricing. It is staggering, people, and it's a report that you really need to be paying attention to. What's exciting here is that, and I've been talking about this for a while on my channel, is that what's happening in the world of travel and accommodation is really seismic, meaning it has changed dramatically. And for those of you, whether you're a property manager, whether you're running a hotel or you're running a one property Airbnb, then this video you need to watch to stay ahead of this ever changing and evolving space. Now, what I'm going to be talking about is how people look and search for properties today. Over the past decade, especially if you guys been in this industry since or earlier from 2019 or on, because again, I know a lot of you got into the game and right after the pandemic. Again, if you follow this channel, I've said this 1,000 times, if not more. What happened between 2020, 2022 is an anomaly. It's not going to happen again. And we're really seeing, or the industry has undergone a seismic transformation. And it's all due in part to artificial intelligence, data accessibility, the power of analytics, and consumers today are in the driver's seats. And the reason that's important for you as a host, or again, whether you're managing or own a hotel, a boutique bed and breakfast, is because what you did in the past will not work in the future. Let me say that again. What you were doing in the past, and when I say the past, I mean stuff, from early on, from up to 2022, will not work in the future. If you don't learn anything else, or the one takeaway from this video that I want you to get is that you need to understand that the industry has changed and you need technology and you need to market smartly if you want to stay in the game. As I mentioned, over the past decade, the way people book their stays is completely different. Today, a potential guest has artificial intelligence at their side. As I've already mentioned, they have data. They have the power of analytics at their disposal. Here's what you need to understand. So what does all this stuff means for you as the business owner or the person in the hospitality industry? What it means is that today, there's, whether, depending on your type of accommodation, whether it's a hotel, a short-term rental, or even a resort, the lines between those accommodations have been blurred. The new landscape is what we're calling, and this is what Beyond Pricing has dubbed, is the stay industry, where the focus is less on the type or kind of property you have and what you're managing, and more on how that property meets the needs of today's savvy traveler. I'm going to use myself for an example. If you follow the channel, you know I travel a lot. I have traveled around the world more than once in my lifetime, and I'm continually looking to travel. And because of economics, right, I'm always looking to see where I'm going to stay and where I'm going to go and how I'm going to get there, the cheapest and most efficient way to do that, right? And when I'm looking for accommodations, I'm looking for accommodations that are going to meet the needs that I personally want. So for example, I work remote, right? So I need a place that has Wi-Fi, that has a workstation, an area in which I can sit down and work, do these videos, do these podcasts. I also need an area, in my accommodations, I also need it to have laundry service. Oftentimes I'm away for weeks at a time, if not months. I only travel with a backpack, right? So I need laundry service so I can constantly be washing my clothes. So you guys need to understand how the dynamics from the traveler's perspective, how that's going to come into play and how they search for your property. In this particular study that I'm mentioning that was done by Beyond Pricing, 45% of travelers now compare short-term rentals with hotels and other forms of accommodation. And today it's very easy to compare. I mean, if you follow this channel, one of the travel hacks that I always give is to go on Google Travel. You can go on there and you can compare flights, itineraries, you can compare accommodations, again, between hotels and short-term rentals. Almost half of all travelers no longer see a clear line between accommodations, meaning mean, they don't distinguish whether it's a hotel or a short-term rental. For them, it's a place to stay, and which one is going to provide for their needs and which one's going to do that at a lesser cost. Okay, for me, that's good, right? Because pricing between hotels and short-term rentals, there was a big gap in the beginning. Airbnb has been pushing and continues to push to be the cheaper alternative to hotels, but hotels are understanding that, right? And they're providing more amenities. They're providing rooms at cheaper cost. They're using loyalty programs to attract more travelers. We don't have that in the short-term rental industry yet. I foresee we're going to start to see that soon. So, for example, Expedia, who now owns Vrbo, you can use Expedia points and credits when you're staying in a short-term rental. Now, when you do a search on Expedia, if you haven't noticed this yet, you will when next time you check. Expedia, when you're asking for a stay in a location, they're going to give you a short-term rental. They're going to give you a hotel. They're going to give you a resort. They're going to give you all sorts of types of accommodation as an option for you to book, right? Because they understand that today's travelers are looking for specific needs, right? So that's why they're doing it. The professionalism. The other thing is that as a short-term rental operator, man, you really need to step up your game, because your competition, which it used to not be, are the hotels, right? There used to be a clear distinction between a short-term rental and hotels. Today, that's not the case. I've already mentioned, if you follow this channel, that we are part of the Marriott brand. We have all the properties that qualify to be listed on Marriott's Home and Villas. We're on there. And we just talked about Expedia. Expedia bought out Vrbo. Booking.com has hotels and short-term rentals, right? They're all in the game, and the lines are blurred today. There is no really distinct difference between a hotel and a short-term rental anymore, right? And you need to understand that. So how do you compete with the new stay industry, right? The answer is going to lie on something that I've been talking about a lot, and that is data and advanced analytics. You really need to have real-time data at your hands to understand what the consumer is searching for. And tools like Beyond Pricing or Beyond Search, Google Travel, Price Labs, Key Data, these are all companies that are now providing hosts with data that they can use to target specific guests. And I'm here to tell you, you need to use that, right? I'm going to give you another glaring statistic that I thought was crazy when I saw it. The stay industry, the research that was done shows that 45% of all travelers compare short-term rental options with hotels, helping them decide where to book. That's more than half of people today are comparing or doing a comparison between platforms and hotels. And when I say platforms, I mean OTAs such as Airbnb, Booking, Vrbo, Marriott. They're doing that comparison, and they're using data to do that. They're also using data to compare pricing. You've heard me say this a lot. Today's consumer has lots of options. So if you want to be competitive, you have to not only provide an exceptional experience, not only do you need an exceptional listing, it needs to be fully optimized, but your pricing needs to be comparable to other similar properties. Because if they're not, people are going to skip you. Long gone, I don't care if you have Superhost status on Airbnb. I don't care if you have the guest favorite badge. You have phenomenal reviews. People are right now, when they're doing their searches based on amenities and on pricing. I'm going to say that again. When people are filtering these searches using these data entry points to look and compare prices, they're comparing prices based on what their needs are in terms of amenities and their pricing. You guys need to understand that. It's huge, right? Another thing that I want to, let me see here. All right, here's something that came up from, and I'm going to talk strictly about Airbnb. Brian Chesky suggested that companies will be expanding into new products and services, including co-hosting and relaunching the Airbnb experience. Here's why they're doing that, people, right? And we're going to talk about co-hosting, right? It used to be, and I've said this before if you follow this channel, that OTAs such as Vrbo, such as specifically Airbnb, prior to 2018, right? So let's say in the beginning of when Airbnb started all the way up to probably 2015 and 16, Airbnb needed you. They needed the hosts. They needed properties on their platform. They don't need you anymore, people. They have that. In fact, not only do they have it, referred to as co-hosting, they're looking to take over the management of the property. You have more and more properties or more and more companies getting into the management side of it, getting into the co-hosting side of the short-term rental industry. It is extremely profitable, people. Again, if you follow this channel, I've done tons of videos on how to start a management company in the short-term rental industry. The money is there, people. Investing in short-term rentals has become more and more difficult, especially now with the interest rates being so high. So the investor is becoming less and less. Now, venture capitalists are still doing it, but you're not getting what we used to have before. Here's another very big statistic that I just talked about. 33% of travelers are looking for their stay in Google Travel. If you're not familiar with Google Travel, you should be. In the past, or when Google Travel first started, I heard a lot of people in this industry complain about it, saying that Google's going to take over. And I told you guys, get on the bandwagon. Make sure that you're advertising on Google Travel. Make sure that you are on OTAs that are Google Travel friendly, like WinStay. If you're not familiar with WinStay, I highly recommend you become familiar with WinStay. That's how people, 33% it's a big chunk of the market, people. Here's another shocker, right? 61% of travelers say that pricing is the most important factor. I'm going to say that again. 61% of the travelers that are looking for accommodations, whether it be a hotel or whether it be a short-term rental, say that pricing is the number one factor. I can't express that more. I don't understand why people are still overpricing their properties. I get it that some of you guys invested, especially if you're an investor, in areas where you need a minimum rate. But I'm sorry, people, that's not going to fly. You're going to have to bite the bullet for the next couple of years, get on the bandwagon, make sure that you are operating professionally, or better yet, people, hire us or hire a company like me that's going to help you get through these next couple of years, because they're not going to be fun for some of you. Some of us that understand this and been doing it for a while, we get it. We get it, right? The last thing I'm going to talk about is the technology side of the house, right? As I mentioned before, one of the things that you really need to get on the bandwagon on is AI. I talked about it in the beginning of this video. AI is going to be critical for the success of your business. Now, we use AI in our customer service, but I'm also talking about using AI to do the analytics of your business, to understand who your customer is, to create marketing plans for your customer. You have to market, people. The days of just putting your property on an OTA and hoping somebody sees it and books your property are gone. You have to market. This is why I am preaching and I am telling you that you either become a professional in this. And I know a lot of you guys are just investing or trying to do this part-time as a side hustle. I'm sorry, man. I don't think that's going to fly anymore. So either become a full-time host or give your property to a professional management company. Do your research. Do your homework, because not all property management are created equal. Those in the industry, I follow David Green, who used to be with Bigger Pockets. He just did a podcast with Ryan Pineda. Highly recommend you watch that podcast to see all the mistakes that he made, so you don't make those mistakes. But again, I'm giving you a better option. Instead of doing all that, just hire us or hire a company like me and let us do the legwork for you. This is what we do for a living. Anyways, hope this information was useful. If it was, hit that like button. Subscribe if you haven't subscribed. Follow me on Instagram. I love you guys, and I'll see you in the next one.